This video was sponsored by Square Enix. Video game music has quietly become one of the most emotionally powerful types of music in the planet. And I can prove it with 2 tracks from the NieR series that completely messed with millions of people's heads. In fact, I recently sat down with Keiichi Okabe, the lead composer of the NieR series, and he revealed to me the untold stories behind the creation of those pieces of music in NieR that are designed to break you and then carefully put you back together. Before we start, keep in mind that this video contains spoilers for NieR Replicant. You got that? Okay, good. Let's go. There is a piece of music from the NieR series which is very popular. It is a final boss theme that did something which back in 2010 probably hadn't been done before. It's a track called Shadow Lord, and it illustrates exactly how a composer can weaponize music against your emotions. But here's the thing, the impact, the emotional destruction that came with this piece of music was not accidental. In fact, Okabe-san told me that when he started working on the very first NieR game more than 15 years ago, he got one specific directive from Yoko Taro, the creator of the game, which was this.
最初に横尾さんのオーダーがとにかく全部悲しい。このゲームには全部悲しいんだみたいなことを言われて、で全部の曲にその悲しい要素をこう入っててほしいっていうことは聞いていて。
Make everything sound sad. Now, knowing how to write sad music is one thing, but what Okabe-san did is next to psychological warfare disguised as boss music. Because I mean, what he did with Shadow Lord doesn't just make you sad, it actually breaks you and makes you question everything. So how was this theme made? Well, when I asked Okabe-san how he actually went about creating it, he described this process mostly in 2 steps. The first one being this.
で、ゲームのストーリーの最後のシーンというか、とても重要なシーンの曲でもあるので、その悲しみみたいなものが最後こうギュッて詰まった感じの曲にはなっているので、それとこうちょっとクラシック的なアプローチをしてる曲プラスその今日のそのベンヤミンのコンサートのその激しい部分とすごく静かなところのそのコントラストみたいなものがそのある意味そのニーヤの音楽の全体に言えるところでもあると思っていて、その全体の悲しさはずっとステイしていながらこう激しさは静かになったり極端に激しくなったりっていうことをその体現している音楽でもあるので、それがある意味ニーヤのこう記号というかアイコンとしてもニーヤを象徴している曲かなとは思ってます。
Now, before we move to his second step, listen to how calculated this is at the orchestration level. There is this beautiful organ layer playing in the background that makes this moment feel both sacred and inevitable, as if this moment is not just another boss fight, but it's more like a divine ritual that we're taking part in, that was preordained by fate itself. Then we have a choir that gets added, which is a common element of final boss music. But in this case, the choir is doing something special. It's not celebrating your victory, nor is it making you feel that the boss is a very dangerous entity. No, this choir is bringing a level of sorrow into the fold. It is mourning what you are about to do. Then there is a massive layer of percussion enveloping the whole thing, representing the stakes of the fight. In the moment, as this track is playing in the game, you feel like the hero and you feel like you got what it takes to deliver the final blow, to get your revenge and bring justice to the world. But you have no idea of the emotional trap you're about to walk into. Because right when you're about to deliver the killing blow to this boss, which is really freaking tough, it is in that moment that Okabe pulls the rug from you in the most devastating way possible. The epic orchestral sound of the theme just dies and gets replaced by this. Now this isn't boss music anymore. This is more like the soundtrack to something innocent and fragile dying. It is a moment that suddenly makes you realize that you might be the monster in this story. And to bring this up to an 11, in that moment, you can see even the protagonist hesitating to deliver the final blow. The music really makes you feel like you're not a hero. It makes you feel like you're a child who just broke something that is so precious and that cannot be fixed ever again. And according to Okabe-san, this psychological gut punch was completely intentional because this is step 2 of how he wrote the Shadow Lord theme.
それももう横尾さんの希望なんですよね。でも明確に最後はオルゴールにしてほしいっていうのを具体的にオーダーがあって、でそれはその音楽としての表現というよりかはやはりそのゲームとしての演出のあり方というか、だからこうラスボスの激しさよりもその戦っていることにその背負っている悲しさみたいなところが音楽の担っているところでもあると思うので、それが最後のその静かになってオルゴールになっていくっていう静かなんだけど最後の悲しさが凝縮されている感じの演出になってると思ってます。
Think about it. You just spend like 30 plus hours playing this game, thinking the entire time that you are the hero. You fought countless battles, made friends, lost people you cared about. The game taught you to trust your perspective fully. And then in the final moment, Keiichi Okabe's music forces you to confront a terrible doubt, which is, have I been the villain the entire time? It makes you question the nature of revenge, the validity of your actions, and invites you to consider a possibility where your beliefs may not be correct. And in that sense, the NieR soundtrack is not just music. At this point, what Keiichi Okabe created together with Yoko Taro is an exercise in empathy. I know that nowadays we have a lot of games like Dark Souls or The Last of Us or Final Fantasy XIV, which have beautiful, morally gray stories. But you gotta think about the fact that NieR originally came out in 2010, and back then, I don't know how many games went that deep in this sort of vibe. So this sort of storytelling was quite visionary at the time, I think. And while he was reminiscing about it, Okabe-san told me something that blew my freaking mind.
僕自身がそのゲームに対しての思いっていうのは実はそんなには変わっていなくて、向き合い方は変わっていないんだけど、周りの状況はとても変わっていて、15年前に作ってた時は、正直誰も期待してないと思ってたから、本当に好きなようにというか、すごくチャレンジが、すごくやりやすい状況だった。だから、すごく世界中の多くの人にっていうよりかは、誰か一人でも、なんかこういうチャレンジングなことが面白いなって思ってくれたらいいなと思ってたんだけど、15年経って、こうやってローマに来させてもらえるようになるなんて本当に夢にも思ってなかったです。
That's right. When Keiichi Okabe was writing this theme in his studio while working on the first NieR game more than 15 years ago, he had no idea that he was creating something that would end up redefining the impact that video game music can have on players. Now, this is the power of an authentic creative vision. Because, Keiichi Okabe and Yoko Taro were not chasing popular trends while they were creating the first NieR game. Rather, they were asking themselves, hey, what if we actually made something that mattered? And that authenticity and originality is the exact reason why NieR was such a transformational game. It really goes to show that sometimes the best creative ideas in game dev come from the underdogs, because Yoko Taro and Keiichi Okabe at the time were definitely underdogs. And we're seeing that nowadays with Expedition 33, a game that seemingly came out of nowhere and redefined what games can be. It's incredible what people are able to do when they just want to do creative stuff without worrying too much about what's popular. But here's the thing, if NieR was a game whose sole purpose was to break the players and make them feel terrible, then it would be just a cruel experiment. NieR is a lot more than that. There's times in NieR where the music does break you, and then there's also times where the music heals you. Recently, I had the chance to go to a NieR piano concert in Rome. And at the concert, I have witnessed something that I often see at game music concerts, which never fails to bring a smile to my face, which is I've witnessed copious amounts of grown men cry openly and unashamedly to the music from this game. This wasn't just a concert, it was more like collective therapy. Now, there are many emotional pieces of music in NieR, but I think the one that resonates the most with fans worldwide is the Kaine theme. Now, here's the genius about Kaine's theme. Many people actually first encountered this theme in NieR Automata, the sequel, rather than the original. Now, picture this. You're wandering around in NieR Automata and you stumble into this beautiful field of bright white flowers next to an abandoned house. And as you witness this very different scenery, you hear these gorgeous vocals singing in a language that doesn't exist. You have no idea what this song means, and you don't even know who Kaine is, really, as you've never played the original game. But something happens. For some reason, you just can't seem to leave this place. You feel at home, and maybe you start tearing up a little bit as well. When I asked Okabe-san about that, and how he was able to create a piece of music that worked so intensely, even outside of context, he said this.
僕も実際にそのゲームをやった時にもうおっしゃってるような感覚はあるんですけど、実は作ってる時にそういう意図でそう思わせようと思って作ってる感じは実はそんなにはなくて、もう少しそのカイネが背負ってる悲しさと、だけどもうおっしゃるようにその人に対する気持ちみたいなところのちょっと気持ちの温かさみたいなものと悲しさとみたいないろんなものが混じってる音楽っていうのは目指してはいたんですけど、最終的に感じ取ってくれてる奥深さみたいなものは多分ゲームをプレイして感じ取ってくれたプレイヤーの人が自分でゲーム体験を蓄積した上で聞いたからそう感じるっていうところがとても大きいのかなって思うので、音楽だけの力ではなくて、音楽も手助けはしてるかもしれないけど、おそらくいろんな経験が同じ曲を聴いても違う感じ方をしてて、レプリカントのゲームは後から知ったけど、それをしてない時に感じてた温かさは、おそらくオートマタ自体のそこまでゲームをやってきた時の経験がそう感じさせてる何か、あとは演出としてのそのシーンの雰囲気も含めてそう感じてるんじゃないかなとは思ってます。
I mean, what that means is Okabe-san and Emi Evans, which is the vocalist on this track, created music that is so vulnerable and so honest that even without knowing the context behind it in terms of the story of the game, it will still hit you in the heart like freaking laser beam. That's not an accident. That's musical mastery. But on top of that, the harmonies and the melodies of the piece, even when divorced from the vocals, make this song feel like a hug from someone that cares about you and loves you and understands you. They make you feel seen and accepted. But here's where it gets even more beautiful. When you finally go back and play NieR Replicant and you learn about Kaine's story, you suddenly understand why this music hits so hard. Now, Kaine is a character that deals with a lot. She had a traumatic childhood just because she was seen as different by society. She is crude and aggressive, and everybody really sees her like a monster. So you may ask, okay, why is her music so gentle? Well, that's because her theme song doesn't lie. Her music sees her and describes her as she actually is. Kaine is someone that loves fiercely. She's someone that will go to the ends of earth to protect the people that she cares about. And she's someone that learned that being different doesn't make you less worthy of love. In that sense, when Okabe was writing her theme, he didn't just write a song about Kaine. He wrote a song that's about everyone who's ever felt like they don't belong. And that's why this is so healing. Because after, the Shadow Lord finale of the first NieR game and all the darkness that leads you to confront, you then listen to the Kaine theme in NieR Automata and you think about the fact that, hey, love still thrives in this earth. There's people who still remember their long-lost friends with cherished memories, and by planting endless amount of flowers in their honor for all eternity. I'm trying not to spoil too much, but if you played NieR, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know how insanely touching this whole story is, and it just makes you feel really good. It's really beautiful. At the end of the day, Kaine's theme is one that reminds you that even broken things can still be very beautiful and celebrated. Now, what fascinated me at the concert in Rome that I went to, where I witnessed all this music in the most emotional form possible, is the fact that there were so many different types of people at the show. Like, the NieR fans represent a spectrum of humanity that is so wide. People of all ages, shapes and sizes, different backgrounds, different countries even. So it's really amazing to see the universal appeal that this game has, and I had to ask Okabe-san about that, about how he's able to create music that can appeal to people across the world, and how he nails that balance when writing music. To which he said this.
少し音楽とは違う話になってしまうんですけど、ゲーム自体がワールドワイドで売っていかないといけないっていうふうにとても意識してた、その日本のゲーム業界がそうなっていた時代があるっていう認識を僕はしていて、でその時みんな海外で評価されるためにはこうするべきみたいな形の作り方になっていたと思うんですけど、その時に個人的にはそれまであった日本のゲームらしい魅力みたいなものが薄くなってしまったところもあるなと思っていて、で結果そのニーヤみたいな作品もワールドワイドを意識して作るっていうよりかは、やっぱり自分たちがいいと思う日本のゲームらしさみたいなものを大事にすることによって他の国で作るものとは違う価値が生まれていると思うんですね。で、結局僕たちが作る音楽も同じことかなと思っているので、かなり受け手の人を意識するのはとても大事だと思うんですけれども、日本と海外で違うマーケットだから違う作り方をするっていうのはあまり意識していなくて、僕たちの魅力をいかに出せるかっていうのは共通した項目として制作しています。
Now, this is a lesson that, as a creator myself and someone who makes music for games, it kind of surprised me, because when you create something, it's so easy to try to appeal to everyone to make sure that someone is going to find it interesting, right? But Okabe-san didn't go for that. He didn't try to make this universally appealing and inoffensive in a way that everybody can appreciate it equally. Rather, he made it deeply personal and culturally specific, approaching this whole soundtrack with a very Japanese stamp. And the result ended up being music that is so emotionally honest that it kind of appealed universally. And I suppose that's the secret behind healing through art, in a way. Like, you don't try to create something that fixes everyone's problems. Rather, you tell your truth about a very specific experience, hoping that that will resonate with people who've had something similar happen to them. And that sort of authenticity, I feel, is what explains why NieR's impact goes far beyond what games normally achieve. But here's where the story gets even more beautiful. Now, remember that NieR piano concert that I told you about, where I've witnessed countless of grown men cry openly? Well, there's something you should know about the pianist that made it all happen. His name is Benjamin Nuss. And when he got asked to arrange and perform NieR music on the piano officially, he did something that most professional musicians in that position wouldn't bother to do, which is he actually played the games.
I knew about this project and I wanted to do it properly. When I arrange a piece, I want to get into the material, and so I started playing the game, and it was really fun seeing the different characters, and I think it really helped, like arranging, also putting some depth, some hidden features of characters, put it into the arrangement.
Think about how rare that is. I mean, most professional musicians wouldn't necessarily bother to play the games. They would just learn the notes, do their job amazingly, but Benjamin went the extra mile and understood something crucial, I think. The best way to perform NieR music at the piano is to understand exactly the stories behind those themes and the characters, so that when you're on stage playing that music, your mind can travel there. You know exactly the story behind what you're playing. And I think that makes a big difference, to be honest. I understand why musicians don't always do it. Being a professional musician is a life that is insanely stressful and insanely busy, but we gotta give Ben his flowers for the fact that he over-delivered for the sake of NieR fans. I think that's very lovely. And when I asked Okabe-san what he thought about Benjamin's performance on the piano for the NieR themes, his response perfectly captured why this music works as healing.
去年オーケストラのコンサートをいろんな国で行わせていただいて、それに対してのピアノコンサート今回初めて今日聞いて、とてもお客さんとそのベンヤミンの演奏自体の距離がとても近くて、そのベンヤミンのこうパッションみたいなものがより明確にお客さんに伝わりやすかったコンサートかなと思ってます。
So when you go to a NieR Piano Journeys concert and you see Benjamin perform on the piano, you're not just listening to a pianist performing video game music, but you're hearing your own emotional journey reflected back to you through Benjamin's interpretation of Okabe's music. There's something really special about hearing these pieces of music performed live while you're surrounded with countless people who understand exactly what they mean. And it's an experience that you cannot get just by listening to the album on your headphones. So I recommend you to look the tour up, see if it's stopping by in your country, and maybe consider going. By the way, I have a full interview that I shot with Keiichi Okabe and Benjamin Nuss, and if you want to watch it, I'm gonna link it somewhere in the description of this video, so you can check it out there. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.